Major breaking news involving gun laws in America. Specifically, Hunter Biden has been pardoned by Joe Biden. Oh yes, we are going to find a way to use this to our advantage. Why? Because if you look at the presidential statement made by Joe Biden to justify his pardoning of Hunter Biden, basically he makes the same argument you've heard here on the Four Boxes Diner about the difference between malum in se crimes, evil in and of themselves, and malum prohibitum crimes. Things that are just crimes because they're made up by politicians. Joe Biden basically made that argument in his statement justifying the pardoning of his son, Hunter. And we'll also break down the pardon in greater detail, but in particular, why it's good for the Second Amendment when we get right back. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and author of the brand new law review article in the Georgetown Journal of Law and Public Policy entitled Dangerous But Not Unusual, Mistakes Commonly Made by Courts in Post-Bruin Second Amendment Litigations. About 65 pages long. It's extremely geeky. A lot of historical information, a lot of scholarly information for anyone who's writing briefs, writing opinions, doing historical work, writing scholarship, doing law review pieces, whatever it is, op-eds, Twitter, etc., or I should say X. You definitely want to get a copy of this article, which is linked in the description of this video. And of course, make sure you vote for the Four Boxes Diner and Mark Smith as a top voice, or the top voice, for the 2025 Gundies Award, where I've been nominated as a top voice, or top in the category of top voices for the Second Amendment. So this year I feel like we might break through and win. You can vote every day, I believe. I think there's a bunch of rules about that, but you can check it out, and I would appreciate your support for winning the 2025 Gundies Awards. A lot of stiff competition there, but I think this year we can do it, folks. All right, folks, so you probably know this by now, but President Joe Biden went back against his word, no shock, as I predicted repeatedly on Fox News. Anybody who seen me on Fox News the last year, you know exactly what I've been saying, that Joe Biden will pardon his son Hunter. And my prediction was, or my guess was, that Joe Biden had that pardon written a long time ago and signed just in case something happened to Joe, that his son would be protected. Nevertheless, this all became public and official on Sunday, where Joe Biden was issued a statement explaining why he was going to pardon his son Hunter, and then issuing the pardon itself. Now, there's a couple weird things about the pardon, and then we're going to get to why it touches fingers with the Second Amendment. Beyond why it touches fingers with the Second Amendment, there's a couple weird things here. First is, the pardon goes back to the year of our Lord 2014, which, as I recall, is when the Ukraine war kind of gets going. Kind of the original Ukraine war. And I think it's also, as I understand it based on the reporting, around that time that Hunter Biden starts to get associated with a gas company over there. Keep in mind, also in the year of our Lord 2014, what else is going on in the world? Well, Donald Trump is not the president yet. Donald Trump becomes the president in the election of 2016. So why does Hunter Biden need a pardon going back to the year of our Lord 2014, when his father, the big guy, perhaps, was the vice president? So I think the fact that the pardon goes back to 2014 through today, kind of telling us to maybe what Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were worried about in terms of criminal liability. That's the first thing to keep in mind. Second thing to also keep in mind is now that he has been immunized or pardoned, Congress, for example, can call him to testify, and he cannot plead the Fifth Amendment. He cannot take the Fifth. He has to answer all these questions because he is no longer subject to criminal jeopardy, right? And because he cannot incriminate himself, because he's now been pardoned for everything that occurred between 2014 and today, Congress can ask him, and he can assert the Fifth, any sorts of questions about 2014 through today, including who was the big guy, all about the emails, all about the Ukraine, and on and on. And he cannot assert the Fifth to avoid answering these questions. And by the way, if Hunter Biden were to testify falsely, let's say, and he were caught in doing so, then he could be charged and convicted of committing perjury in front of Congress. I'm not saying he would do that, but I'm saying that could happen because the pardon only extends through now. It doesn't extend and cover future crimes at all. But beyond that, and the fact, of course, that this just shows that Joe Biden was lying to us the whole time, because he said to us for years that he was not going to pardon Hunter Biden, which I knew was BS. And I said so on Fox News, and I said so on other channels, and I said so on this channel. Of course, Hunter Biden was going to be pardoned by his father. That was a no-brainer. No matter what Joe Biden said, we knew that was hooey. Total hooey. Nevertheless, there's a couple things that are very important for you in the Second Amendment community to know about, associated with his pardon. The first is, if you look at what Joe Biden says, he really emphasizes the nonviolent nature of the gun-related crime. And just to jog your memory, there's really two convictions of Hunter Biden. One was a gun-related crime, and of course, there's the tax-related crime, meaning he didn't pay his taxes, tax fraud. So you had an income tax fraud situation, and you had, again, the gun-related crime, where he lied on the 4473, and he possessed a firearm that he wasn't allowed to have because he was a user of drugs. You remember all that. Nevertheless, whatever it is, it's all in the rearview mirror now because he's been pardoned. But what's interesting, though, that we can use going forward is the justification for Joe Biden giving this pardon. First of all, Joe Biden says that there's a political prosecution here, which I actually think will help people like the January 6th defendants to point out, well, how does Hunter Biden get his father to pardon him, and we don't get pardoned from Donald Trump? And all these people that have been politically prosecuted by the Biden Department of Justice, could be the pro-life people under the FACE Act, could be the January 6th protesters, it could be certain gun owners, all sorts of things like this could possibly now open up the door, politically speaking, to say, hey, you Democrats on Capitol Hill can't complain about pardoning conservatives who were abused and misused by virtue of political prosecutions by the Biden Department of Justice, when your own guy, Joe Biden, pardoned his own son after, and here's the key, after Hunter Biden was convicted by jury trials, right? So anyway, that's quite interesting. But the more important part is the fact that Joe Biden is basically justifying his pardoning of the gun crime by essentially saying that it was no big deal. It was essentially a malum prohibitum crime. He didn't use that language. He didn't use Latin, but that's essentially what he said. Let's tune in and see what Joe Biden says in the statement, and you tell me if you agree with me. Joe Biden writes, quote, "Today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word, even as I watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without, listen carefully, without aggravating factors like use in a crime, bing, 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 malum and say, without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form." Hear what I just said? A malum prohibitum crime, a paperwork crime, a victimless crime with no violence is not a basis for charging people for a felony. Of course, this is correct. But of course, if you're the anti-gunners, they want to go right after people using all these gun control laws, which are all malum prohibitum. There's no moral component or evil incarnate. There's no inherent evil protected associated with owning guns, owning a gun with a barrel that's too long or too short, or a magazine that holds 10 rounds or 20 rounds or 30 rounds, right? Or suppressor or not a suppressor, registered or not. None of these things are evil in and of themselves. These are malum prohibitum crimes. They're simply crimes because the politicians say so. And they're still crimes legally, yes, but they're not evil. And that's what Joe Biden is saying here, that he shouldn't have been charged with a felony for taking possession of a firearm as an unlawful user of an illegal substance because it was no big deal. He's essentially saying that, no big deal. So this is a precedent that we're going to be able to use in fights going forward with the ATF and against more gun control laws. Because all these gun control laws that are proposed are nonsensical, malum prohibitum, victimless crimes not connected at all to morality, and they're not connected at all to violence or to dangerousness. It's just hooey. And Joe Biden, in pardoning his son, Hunter, from a gun charge, a federal gun charge, no less, proves the point. Proves the point. Okay, to summarize, I just want you to hear the last part of Joe Biden's statement here, just because I think it's interesting and you ought to know about it to be the smartest person in the room. Here's what else Joe Biden says to justify pardoning his son, even though he had always said he was never going to do it. Here's what Joe Biden writes. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system. But as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. Right. Okay, folks, you heard it here first. This Joe Biden pardoning of his son, when he said he was never going to do it, is going to be used as a sword by the Trump administration to do good, to unwind some of those political persecutions by the Biden Department of Justice. This two-system of government stuff, this two-system of justice stuff that we've been seeing with this Biden Department of Justice has not been lost on people. This will only contribute and exacerbate and remind people of these two systems of justice where if you're a Democrat, you get treated as a special snowflake. And if you're not a Democrat and you support Donald Trump and you're Republican and you support the Second Amendment, you're treated like dirt. That's the game that's being played. But people will flag this. This is going to be a good reminder, and it will be used in favor of America, in favor of patriots, in favor of our Second Amendment and our Bill of Rights, and in favor of a fair, both actually fair and appearance of fairness system of justice moving forward. That's my hope, and that's what I predict. Okay, folks, there you have it. Don't forget to vote for me for the Gundys. Link down below. Check it out. Top Voice of the Second Amendment. Make sure you follow me on X at @ForBoxes. We now have over 20,000 followers on X, which is pretty new over there, so I'm glad to see we're doing well over there. And make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel. We're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers and catch up to all of our other great Second Amendment friends out there in the YouTube and other communities. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.